It's a 2003 Subaru Forester. It's got 233,000 miles on it, and it's due for a timing belt, so let's go ahead and get there. Alright, I started without you guys, but everything I did is pretty simple. Pulled the washer fluid bottle that sits right here. Pulled the battery that sits right there. All 10 and 12 millimeters on a just a ratchet would be fine if you got one of those. Pulled the underpan. Let's see here, that's sitting over here. That's all just plastic clips and 12 millimeter bolts. And then, so that's where we're at right now. Unfortunately, my plan of attack here was to use my new Nano, and I was going to hopefully slide this in here. The socket is actually in the crank pulley here, but as you can see, we don't have enough clearance. So I am going to have to pull the radiator. So I'm going to pull those belts, and I'm also going to pull the spark plugs. And the reason I'm going to pull the spark plugs is A, I want to change them, but also B, when I get the timing belt on and I turn the engine over to make sure I have the timing correctly on, it'll be easier for me to turn, and then I can, if I hit any resistance, I'm just going to stop, because I must have done something wrong. But so yeah, that's why I'm going to pull the spark plugs. Plus, give me a chance to change them and check them out. It's been about 50,000 miles since I changed those. Coolant is draining slowly. Thought it would have came gushing out a little bit more. Radiator's removed. I took some old spark plugs. As you can see, at the end of the transmission coolers, they fit pretty good. So you stick the porcelain type up in there, and it'll keep it from bleeding all over the place. They do make a hose clamp pliers. I don't have a set, so that's what I'm going to use. Marked the belts here, so arrow pointing to the right and arrow pointing out, so I can get those back on. If this is your first time pulling Subaru belts, this big adjuster knob with this really inviting bolt head right here that you think you can just twist it off, you have to make sure to pull the pinch bolt off. To just loosen it up, and then you can adjust it up and down. And I usually put a little PB blaster on here first, and then same goes down here. There's going to be a nice adjuster bolt right here that you'll probably want to put your socket on and start twisting. You will twist it and break it, so you got to pull the clamp off. Once the clamp's off, it releases the pulley to move up and down. So just a heads up there. Okay, radiator's out. Moment of truth here. Let's see if we can get this crank pulley bolt off. They're supposed to be pretty tough. Put the 22 millimeter in there first. Get this guy in here. Let's fight me. Looks like some dirt in there too. Okay, there we go. Boom. That was probably not in there to the torque it's supposed to be, would be my guess. But pulled it right off. So, yay Nano. The question is will this slide off? Let's see. There it is. Yay. Yeah, that's it. So this is what broke, and this piece slid back into the timing belt cover. Let me go show you that. So it slid into the timing belt cover. Oh yeah, as you can see, it's fully open right here. I actually had this covered with some Gorilla Tape, as you can see right here. Gorilla Tape stays on. That was on there for 2 years and about 50,000 miles. Doesn't look too bad. I mean, if you look at the damage on the timing belt cover here, you can just see I had it taped here and then probably taped down to about here for a little while, but there's probably a lot of crap that was getting in here. The car lasted like that for 2 years of delivery driving, so it was around 60,000 miles, and it doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty dirty, So I'm going to use a can of brake cleaner here just to get everything cleaned up once we get the belt off here. And then I know some people are going to lose their minds because I didn't replace the water pump, but I had an idea, considering the condition of everything so far, that the water pump would be fine. And there's no play in that at all. It feels pretty much brand new, and it spins freely, spins fine actually, and there's no evidence of any leaks whatsoever on that water pump. So if it comes back to bite me in the butt, at least I can just do it myself. I'll have to pull everything back out, but I think she's going to be fine. Alright, right now I'm just going to wash everything down, get everything nice and cleaned up, and I'll go from there. Alright, so a little progress. We got the timing belt pulleys on. They are torqued down, so it looks like my instructions are saying 29 foot-pounds for idler pulley bolt, and then 29 foot-pounds for the timing belt automatic tensioner bolt. I think that's so low because these are all going into aluminum, and the bearings all feel really nice. They feel really good. Water pump again feels just fine. Gonna leave it as is. It's not leaking or anything. Alright, timing belt's on. I'm still gonna ensure that the marks are lined up here one more time for like the 5th time, and then I'm gonna pull the pin on the tensioner and turn it over like 4 times, make sure that I'm not hitting anything. But as you can see on this side, I have little ply channel locks here with some rubber hose covering the jaws there, and I did that to hold it on, so I clipped it on that side, lined the mark up. You can see the timing belt marks are ever so slightly off, but they're real close. I counted it by the teeth count, and the teeth count on this particular car, 2005, there's a measurement between Z1 and Z2, so Z1 and Z2, and then 46.8, 34.7. A little hard to count that, like half a tooth or 0.7 of a tooth. So I'm relying more on the pulley marks than I am on the timing belt marks, and I'm not sure if the parallax on the camera here is going to be off, but they are all lined up. This one was a little confusing too. Let me get a light in here for you. This one was a little confusing because there's like a dash and then a second dash. I counted the teeth out, and it's this first line right here is where you want it to be, and then there's a mark here, and then there's a mark in the back part, and then the mark on the one is right about there. You can see a little indentation. You'll feel it more. So this is a 2003 Subaru Forester with a 2.5 liter. I put the tensioner on, so if I was going to do this again, I was telling you to do it, I would say put this pulley on and put the tensioner on. The tensioner needs thread locker. I did leave the little O-ring on my tensioner. Does the car go by here? On this tensioner bracket, there's actually a V-groove that looks like the O-ring fit into, so I just left it. It fit in there, so just going to leave it as is. So I would tell you to put this pulley on, then the tensioner with the thread lock, and then I would say put this pulley on, but leave it loose. So leave the bolt out, thread it in a good way, but just leave it loose, because once you pull this all in, it's actually really tough to get this on here. It took me that took about 15-20 minutes just to figure this out, because I was trying to do it while this pulley was all the way tensioned down. I left it a little loose, left it out a little bit, got the gear tooth engaged, and then it was able to slide in. I just used the end of my screwdriver here just to tap it in, and then I would, after you have all that in, then install this last one. As you can see, it's still loose here, but it's got a little flange on the back that goes behind the timing belt. Put that in, just slide it in on behind it, and then this goes in actually really easy then. No problems there. So I'm going to retorque these all back down. All the pulleys need to be at 29 foot-pounds, I believe. So I think I was doing 30 on my wrench. I'm going to click them all back down to 30, make sure everything's in here, and then I'm going to count my teeth one more time, make sure my alignments are together, and then I'm going to pull that pin, and then we're kind of committed at that point. Not super committed, but kind of committed. So hopefully it'll be all good, and then I'm going to turn it over and make sure nothing's hitting. So alright, that's where we're at. Okay, I just pulled the grenade pin, about to turn it over. I'm going to set you guys down in there, and we'll see what it feels like to turn this over. Ooh, gotta pull that off. Can't let that go. Alright, there's one time. That's 2 times. That's 3 times. That's 4 times. Alright, so I'm going to set the crankhead top dead center here. And everything else should line up. So I have just hooked it up through my jumper cables, battery, jumper cables in here. So I'll set you guys in here, and then hopefully you guys can satisfied that nothing is hitting and everything looks like it's going to be okay. 130. Is a lot tougher. Okay, there it goes. $130. I'm gonna call that good right there. So, lesson learned. Went to start the car up for the first time. I just wanted to run it for a quick second with all the accessories off, make sure nothing jumped off on the timing. And one of the spark plugs I have into the transmission cooler lines popped off because the transmission obviously is pumping fluid. And I ran it for about 3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds, and this is the mess now I have to clean up. Alright, day 2. Kind of forgot where I left off yesterday. Kind of got dark and rainy, so I had kind of stopped filming and just get to work. Everything went back on. The new timing belt cover went on good. Belts, accessories went on good. Coolant, battery, everything's back in place. So yeah, total time was probably about 8.5 hours with and then a little bit more time for cleanup because it's pretty messy in there right now. So I could have probably cut that time in half if I wasn't filming and screwing around and just kind of messing around. Plus it's my first time, so I was kind of double checking and triple checking everything. But if I had to whip one of these out again, I would probably just leave the spark plugs in. I know I pulled them out so I wasn't fighting compression when I turned the engine over. But I'd probably just leave those in because then you could just leave all this stuff in. Probably just leave the battery in. I would just pull the coolants, the fans, accessory pulleys, and then use one of the power bars to get down in here and get the pulley off. Hopefully if the pulley comes off, then I think you have just enough room to work in here and get a torque wrench in and probably the nano in there to get all the drive belts off. And then now that I know what I'm doing with threading the timing belt on, and what kind of order you have to do that in. I think that would be a lot faster too. So I really think you could probably knock this job out in somewhere between 4 and 6 hours if you had the proper tools and if you've done one before. I kind of found out what this plastic piece is for. I believe it might be for manual transmissions only, or possibly just some models of Subarus that I don't have. But let's pretend that this is the camshaft sprocket that sits right in the center of the engine. Apparently you're supposed to, on some of these models, you'll have Subarus, you'll have the camshaft will sit like this. You use this as a spacer to go around it, and then on the outside of it there is a metal shield that you adjust, and then the plastic piece sets the distance. I don't have that, so that's why I was like wondering, trying to figure out what distance I'm supposed to set. But it's apparently not used in all of the Subarus that this kit can go into. So I think this might be for newer models, newer than 2003. If you see a little guard over your, maybe the crankshaft sprocket, then you probably do have to set your distance in there and make sure the belt's not rubbing. Otherwise it'll probably melt the belt and take it all apart. Is after reading a bunch of forum posts, this is probably from about 2013, and I did this timing belt in 2016, is some people were having problems where the bolt was shearing on the timing belt tensioner. And it seems like that Gates might have taken that, seen all those failures, and then actually added the thread locker, which I did put on. The original one did not have any thread locker. This is probably not the OEM. It does say it's NTN Japan, but I doubt this is the OEM one. But it looks like Gates started adding some thread locker to the end to keep this bolt from coming out, because I think as it came out, it was shearing off, like it would back out a little bit and then shear off towards the thread end. So that was one of the problems, but they cured that hopefully with the thread locker. The other problem, and this is one I didn't do, but it was in the instructions, was that they wanted you to bleed this. I'm guessing that's probably from shipping. They said it was from shipping, but I'm guessing, I wonder if it's from airplanes, compressing and decompressing. That maybe causes the fluid to be separated, or for these to lose some of their tension. There's a couple forum posts about that too. So you should probably follow the instructions there and bleed these out. I didn't want to bleed them out because I know that you can damage these if you go too fast. You have to go super slow down, and then up, and then down, and then up. Otherwise you can damage the internals of it. And then it actually says specifically not to use vise, and that you're supposed to do it upright, like I believe like this. So I'm actually going to try to put my C-clamp on here just for practice and see if I can get it backed in and backed out and see what it feels like. But yeah, if you have a brand new one, if I had to do another one of these, I would probably take the brand new one out of the box, and then maybe the day ahead just use a C-clamp, go super slow, and push it in, push it out, push it in 3 times, set the pin, and then that way when you're doing your timing belt, you're just ready to go. You can pop it out, put the timing belt in, temperature in, and then you're all set. So anyway, just thought I'd add that a little bit there.
So I recorded this video in around 2016. I'm editing it all the way in 2022. The car had made it from around 230,000 miles in this video, and I think it went to about 280 to 290,000 miles when I finally got rid of the car. It was a great car, and the timing belt held up great, and I'm just basically making this video so that way you guys can watch and maybe pick up any ideas, or just kind of see what you're in for if you're going to do your own timing belt. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you. See you on the next video. Thank you so much.